Welcome to the Beginner Triathlon Experience. Episode of the Beginner Triathlon Experience. This is me showcasing my first week of training and talking about a little bit of my swim training. So this week was a sort of rest week or a transition week because I'm now transitioning into a very run-focused training, which is specified to get me ready for a marathon. And now the marathon I'm doing is Grandma's Marathon in Duluth, Minnesota, which takes place on June 22nd. I am now transitioning into that running. So last week I had kind of a down week. It was only about 6 to 7 hours, which was spread across about 8 workouts. That is about half of the normal volume of my workouts. So first on Monday we had a swim, which you can see, and it was about half an hour of 1,300 yards, and all that included was a 350 yard warm up and cool down, and then a 6x100 of using the tempo trainer. So we did that on Monday. Tuesday was a short run, which I did not record. Wednesday was the same swim as Monday, which you can see it's similar times, same exact workout, and they're both about half the regular volume that I would be expecting to doing. So then Thursday, since this is a marathon prep phase of my training, this week was sort of a transition week, and this is a trial workout that is going to be a typical workout throughout the training for a marathon, and it's focused on steady long states at my goal marathon pace, which is around 10 minutes per mile. I'm hoping to get it down to around that, and in between 10:30 per mile and 10 minutes per mile. So on Thursday we had a 40-minute run, and that consisted of a 10-minute warm-up and then 5 minutes at a 10-minute per mile pace, and then 5 minutes at about an 11:30 to 12-minute per mile pace, and transition to that, and then at the end was a 5-minute cool down. I put it up on the screen, which you can see. It's a very easy and typical workout, nothing too complicated, just steady longer states. And then Friday we had a short bike, which I did not record, and Saturday was a rest day, which was meant to get my legs ready for this week, which is getting back into it, focusing more on running. So then Sunday I did an hour easy ride on the bike just to get the legs moving, get some blood flowing in to do a workout, and then did a 20-minute brick run at around 10 minutes per mile off of the bike. And then that was meant to get my legs moving, have a workout, and get ready for this week. So in the first series of discussion, I thought I would talk about each discipline in detail of my experience and exposure to each of them. And as the triathlon goes, I decided to begin with swimming first. So growing up, I was never really exposed to swimming or triathlon, and was never really took an interest, and only played in water occasionally. I was exposed to my first triathlon around the age of 18, which was the summer of 2022, and that inspired me to look into and start training for my first ever triathlon, which was August 6th of 2023. So around a year before I completed my first one. After I completed my high school sports seasons, I signed up for a membership at a local YMCA to go swimming, and that's when I first was exposed to swimming of any kind. I first focused on breath work, which is a very difficult thing if you've ever tried to start swimming, and I can go into more detail later on specific drills I did to work on my breath work. But being someone who never really swam or had experience of that, I had no idea where to start and was kind of lost just looking up different YouTube videos on what I would do. I went for a couple weeks for the whole month of March and about half of April, and was really getting nowhere, was doing the same breath work drills, not really swimming. I could not swim 25 yards, so one length of the pool, and was really getting discouraged. I went with a friend of mine that was a coach, and he also swam in high school, and he kind of taught me some tips on how to swim, how to breathe, if I should breathe unilaterally, so to both sides, after how many strokes I should breathe, and various stuff like that, and just to try to get me in the groove. So after that, I started mostly focusing on swimming the length and not as much breath work, because breath work is a very tedious process of getting it in tune, especially for your rhythm, as it's different for everybody. So this leads into one of the first purchases towards triathlon that I made, and this would be a lap swimming snorkel. Now, I would recommend this to every beginner, and despite some people thinking maybe that it might decrease your efficiency and make you reliant on the snorkel, the benefits it provides of exposing you to swimming for long distances are exponentially greater than the cons of this purchase. And once I was able to swim with a snorkel over 100 yards, over 200, I got all the way up to 300, and my arms were used to that, then I could work in my breath work. Because what I found was that working through those sets, no, my body could not make it and my breath could not make it. So once my body was able to, I was able to work on my breath and work towards that goal. Once I got that goal, I started working on longer distances. So I would swim about 400 or 500 meters. So around mid-April is when I got the snorkel and when I started training with it and when I started working with my friend on swimming. And since my triathlon took place in August, I had a couple months to really get ready and work on stuff that I wasn't as efficient at. And this led me to work on mostly distance, but some technique work. I won't go into detail on the technique work as it wasn't very specific. It was more so just making sure your arms and shoulders were moving in more of a straight line. And so around June and July, the end of June and start of July, I was sitting at around 500 meters without the snorkel and sitting at about 750 with the snorkel. And this is when I transitioned to open water swimming, or my first open water swim. My first open water swim was a disaster. I went about 50 yards before I felt like I couldn't breathe and panicked and just decided to end it there, so I didn't make it worse than it already was, which was a kind of a terrifying experience, seeing as this was around a month before my triathlon, and I thought there was no way I would be able to work all the way up to 800 yards, which was the race distance. So I decided to go back for my second later that week, and I was able to get around 500 yards. So that's a very drastic increase, and that is one of the biggest things I learned about beginner swimmers is it's not as much the fear of the water, it's just the exposure to it. You have to expose yourself to it. So seeing that drastic increase, I switched from pool swimming 2 to 3 times a week to open water swimming at least once, and most of the time 2 times a week for the whole month of July. And this resulted in me working my way up to 1,600 yards in the span of a month. So I went from 500 yards to 1,600 yards and didn't do much work on my ability or my speed or breath work. It was mostly just getting exposed to that open water and getting comfortable. Now in this phase of swimming, this is when I learned what I would say is my most valuable tip, and that is to be as relaxed as possible in the water. When you are very tense, even your face and your breathing and everything is tense, you lose breath, you focus too much, and you worry. Now this will cause you to be slower, this will cause you to swallow water, this will cause you to freak out and worry about many different things. Being relaxed is very important and will lead to you being more comfortable, being able to swim longer and faster. So I was able to successfully complete the 800-yard swim at my triathlon, and it was around a 2-minute 40-second per 100 yards, which is nothing special, but I was very proud of, as I went from not being able to swim to swimming 800 yards in that time in around 5 months, which I I marked down as a personal achievement, and it was something that I can compare to this year when I repeat the triathlon and see how much difference it has made training for another year and what I can do better. So after the triathlon, I started working on some more low volume work as it was kind of an off season and didn't want to tire myself out too much throughout the winter. So I swam around 2 times a week, and that was up until about March of this year, which is when I increased to 3 swims per week and have been working my way down in time. And now I'm sitting around a 2 minute per 100-yard pace, and that is in a pool. I have not tested in open water, which I'm hoping to in the next month or two. So looking forward on my swim journey, I am hoping to maintain 1 to 2 and possibly 3 swims per week up until the week of the marathon, and then after the marathon it should be a consistent 3 swims per week. So that is a very typical swim journey from what I've seen. It's not as much very different. The one thing I would recommend is learning to relax in the water, and I guess another thing is buying a snorkel, as those were the 2 biggest pieces in my success of swimming. And I hope there's something that you learn from the swim journey, and maybe you're similar, maybe you're very different. Let me know. And if you have any questions about specifics on how I progress my swim, I'm happy to share them. So this is a little bit of a shorter video, as I did not have much training this week and I only talked about my swim journey, but I'm hoping next week it picks up and I will go more in detail on my specifics of my workouts and what I'm doing and kind of why I'm doing that. And for the discussion, I will be talking about my bike journey, which is a little bit shorter and a little easier to compress into a smaller format. And if you have any more questions or anything you want me to talk about, let me know. And I hope you have a good day. Bye.